Billy is a very player-friendly veteran player coach. Okay? And I think that, you know, I joke that this guy would be a great mayor for the city of Chicago because of how he handles the media, how he answers the questions.
That's a great point.
Right? He protects the players.
Yes.
I don't want to necessarily fault him for that, but I think as a former player that's been in numerous locker rooms with numerous organizations, that you notice as a teammate when somebody gets called out how they react. That's when you learn what this player really is. Does he actually react and bear down and become better at what he does and take accountability for his actions? Or does he point fingers and say it's not his fault? It's somebody else's fault. It's the coach's fault. It's other players' fault. You learn who this player is. And that's the thing that, you know, I'm not saying Billy's got to start throwing guys under the bus. There's ways to talk about players to send a message that things need to change. Whether it's effort, whether it's focus, whether it's selfishness, whatever it may be. And that's when you ask specific questions about Billy, that's where, you know, I would like to see, you know, something a little different. But but it's not, because that's not who he is. And that's just, you have to accept that.
I hear that. And I is well spoken from somebody with experience, not to disagree, but to just sort of add another layer to that of what's going on here from my perspective as a Bulls fan who watches every minute of every game. I think that a great coach can bring a team from being good or really good to great, championship contention great. Yeah. And we all, I think, would agree that there are only a handful of those coaches in the NBA. There's tiers of coaches and how much they impact their team winning. I also think that for the entirety of Billy Donovan's tenure here as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, what they haven't had enough of is talent. Talent in the player variety. Last season, this season, oh, okay, so DeMar's gone, but Zach's back. Zach missed most of last season. You got 2 sub-all-stars and some young complementary role players, none of whom are good enough and none of whom appear to be getting much better. If you want to fault Billy Donovan directly and put 100% of the blame on Billy for any of the Bulls' young guys not getting better because he doesn't like young players, he doesn't trust young players, I can hear you on that argument. But if you're talking about wins and losses and coaches getting fired based on wins and losses, and you're pinning the last 3+ years of mediocrity or not quite mediocrity squarely on Billy Donovan, when these have been the rosters that he's coaching, that is why I sit here sometimes and say, what the hell are you Billy Donovan haters looking at? How many All-NBA players we had the last 3 years? Oh, DeMar that one time? Yeah, that was fun. What do you expect this man to make wine out of shit water? I don't get it.
Well, let me ask, what did the letter T do to you tonight? Like, you've been whooping T's ass, bro. Like, you've been giving it to him, dog. Giving it to him. Whatever you did, T, you need to apologize right now.
Enunciation is important.
This is true. This is very true. Yeah, like, you can't blame Billy. I've never blamed him outright for everything. Like, you're right. Like, the talent is important. You got to have it on your team. And when they had that talent, what did they look like? Well, the proof was in the pudding. They were first in the damn East at going into the All-Star break. They were a talented basketball team. But once they lost that talent, and that talent, those coffers were not replenished and refilled, and they was just giving them, you know, bargain basement brand stuff instead of the actual name brand products of things. And he's like, oh, no, that's just as good. That's basically saying, no, put some water in it. It'll be fine. No, bro, you know, I need real ingredients out here if I'm going to cook and going to do things. Nah, trust me, you'll be all right. And then you wonder why certain things happen the way they did. you can't blame Billy for all of the he tried everything. This is what I've always said. Like Will said that I say he's not beholden to any lineup because he's trying everything out there to win. We've seen him try all kinds of weird lineups because he's like, dude, something's got to work here. All right, so I'm not going to blame him off. Of course he gets some blame. No question. I've seen him lose games for this team. I've watched it happen. I've watched him make bad timeouts. I watched him make bad substitutions. I watched him take guys out too early. All of that stuff. That has happened for sure. But it is not all on Billy, man. It's just never has been all on him for me. Like, you've got to have better talent in here if you want to evaluate Billy correctly and just get on him. Now, I will say maybe you do need a new voice in the locker room. Maybe you do. You know, maybe guys are just tired and it's like it's run its course. That doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It just means that time has run its course. And maybe that is part of it. Maybe that has happened. I don't know. I'm not in those locker rooms like that. But something is definitely afoot. Another T. Something is definitely afoot out here, man. And something has to change. I just think something has to change. Whether it's a trade or letting someone go, something has to change for the Chicago Bulls team, man.
And I don't disagree with that. I sat here on this set 2 years ago and said, yo, it's time to let Billy go. Like, none of this is working. This is all broken. Move on. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't change the fact that
that they don't have
somebody in the comments just said, it's not, Bob said, the old Elton Brand quote, it's not his fault, but it's not his fault.
Like, Classics. Shout out.
Everyone has a hand in the blame for where the Bulls are right now.
Yeah,
including Billy. But it's all Billy's fault, Bulls fans, who I cannot communicate with. It's like, what are you looking at?
Can't do it.
This team should be 3-time champions right now, defending. It's Billy. Like, what? Oh, Lord.
Not the case.
We all silly like the mayor.